brutality of war, and then when he shows it, the people that are in war with him, like, torture him and take away his rankings and stuff like that. It was weird. Anyway, so he's like thrown into a dungeon because of being a coward, but he just doesn't want to like kill people.
And like the NCO is a military officer who is given authority but don't actually have command over anyone. Connotations, I sing of Olaf, glad and big, whose warmest heart recoiled at war, a conscientious object or. So they paying tribute to Olaf and like how cowardly he is, even though he's opposed to killing in the war. And he, like by most people that fought with him in the war, he was seen as like an inferior person, kind of like an object, and not actually someone who could fight. But he's really just being, showing his American views.
And you guys, are you familiar with that term, conscientious objector? Okay, this was, and again, I'm not sure how people were able to attain this status, but it was basically like if you had a religious belief, or you could show that, you know, killing in a war went against your deeply held beliefs, you could claim conscientious objector status. Oftentimes, like in World War II, I know that those people were then made medics, so they were still helping with the war effort, but they weren't made to be on the front lines and be put in a position to kill someone.
There's like with like Amish, my grandma's talking about that because they're pacifists and they don't want anything bad to happen to anyone, and so they're not obligated to be in the war if there's like a draw or whatever it's
Right,
called.
and at this time it was still during the, there was a draft. So I mean, now it's voluntary, so somebody who's a pacifist just wouldn't volunteer for the military.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, if you were drafted, you didn't have the choice, so then you would be put into these different roles. So Olaf was a conscientious objector.
If you also went to college, you didn't have to go.
Right, during Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, like, it might have been during World War I and World War II as well, but yeah, if you were in college, then you weren't in the draft. All right, go ahead, you guys.
Preponderatingly, because unless statistics lie, he was more brave than me, more blonde than you. So what that means is that the speaker thinks that Olaf was actually brave by using the word blonde. The stats show that he didn't kill anyone during the war, but the person saying like the you emphasizes the fact that Olaf wasn't guilty, but the elders were. And then the word blonde is like the typical American in World War I, blonde hair and blue eyes. It says through blue-eyed pride and being more blonde. It's just showing that he is more of a natural American than the other soldiers. And he shows, like, Olaf shows the true aspects of being a brave American by not using violence.
Okay, the speaker's attitude towards Olaf. Besides Christ, Olaf is the only other word that's like capitalized, so that kind of puts them up together. And then, like the lack of spacing, I say it's like, I pray to see an Olaf too. So it's kind of like, I think it's like more morality that they're seeking kind of here. They're like, he stood up for what he believed in, even though he was like punished and stuff, but it's because he thought it was right. And then, speaker calls Olaf brave and blonde because he stood up for what he believed in, and blonde because that was like one of the things we would think of being American, is what he was acting, but other Americans thought that as weakness.
Okay, so some of the themes that we came up with, somebody who goes against the majority is often ostracized and looked down upon, and doing so takes true bravery. So like we said, Olaf, he obviously went against the majority because he was in the war, but he didn't feel like killing anyone. He didn't believe in it. He didn't believe in violence to prove a point. And he was ostracized by the rest of the soldiers, and he was punished brutally. And that took true bravery because he continued to do it. A true American is a brave and honorable person who does not resort to violence in order to prove a point. Like I said, Olaf didn't do that. He kept to his values, and he was honoring what he believed, and since he did not resort to violence, he is seen as a true American.
I think one of the things also is like flip categories, kind of like what is civil and what is savage is kind of like flipped around. You can see both sides of it kind of, and then bravery versus cowardliness, because they think he's a coward, but then he's standing up for what he believes in, so is he brave? Or then also honorable versus dishonorable, because you have like some of the head people of the war that are punishing him, so.
Yeah, so basically the speaker is showing that these things, just civility and savage, bravery and cowardice, is being viewed as opposites by the soldiers in the war compared to Olaf. When really Olaf is right, but it makes it seem, or everyone in the war thinks that they're correct.
Yeah, and I thought, since you guys didn't have the poem right in front of you, so you have, like you said, the colonels, the president of the United States, these officers who would be thought of as being honorable, right? I mean, they're put in these positions. They're like, because you said brutally. What are some of the things that they do to Olaf, just so you know, like what we're talking about? Because I don't know if you're